A very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us today for a very special conversation. We have Lisa Watts joining us from CREE8. Super excited, actually, Lisa, to talk to you today. We would love to actually sort of get started with a little bit about your intro and background.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to, be a fairly new member with Vitrina and get to know everybody on the platform. And so thank you very much for hosting me. So a little bit about my background. I have been in technology for a very long time. I actually spent over 25 years at Intel. And when I was there, my career really spanned IT, software development, had the opportunity to work on hardware product development and go to market. And from there, I started also the last few years I was there to work in the space with creatives that were on the really the leading edge of what we now call spatial computing, right? So I advised and produced quite a bit of groundbreaking VR and AR content. Had the opportunity to be the first to really present a digital twin at the Intel CES event in 2018. We had also worked with Warner Brothers, HTC, and Sansar to create a digital twin from Ready Player One, and then also worked with quite a few emerging indie filmmakers, many who've gone on to 2D films as well. So had a very rich career at Intel, and then was able to parlay that into my post Intel career when I retired. Or is it really retirement? I guess it's really not, but um, worked with companies like Meta and Walmart on some of their efforts. And then through COVID, I joined a company that many might know called Magic Leap, which has been pushing the envelope on augmented reality for many, many years. And there I worked with them on their second version for go to market. We were focused a lot on digital twins and architecture, commercial use cases. So these things are what I learned in that role was that creativity is not just in isn't just in the category of just mergers and of media and entertainment, right? Because creatives, as we all know, live in many, many different places and many, many different roles and create many types of content. So that was really a very pivotal experience for me, being able to be involved with a lot of those filmmakers and in the spatial computing space, which I think kind of allowed me to bring my career kind of full circle, merging that creativity with emerging technology and and technologies like the cloud that we all have known and loved for a long time.
Fascinating, fascinating. And one aspect that I'd love for you to connect the dots on is create and how where do those journeys kind of meet, and just a little bit of an introduction and background about the company and what are the
Yeah.
key sort of focus areas and solutions.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I recognized in working with a lot of creators is that if you're at a large company, right, you have access to pretty much anything that you want. You've got your IT team, you've got the computers that you need.
Hmm.
Um, but in the case of creatives, even creatives inside of big companies, I found that their IT departments don't really understand their particular workflows.
Hmm.
So and then you get out into what I call the wild. And when we had so much of an impact of working from home and working remotely during COVID, obviously then a lot of the turmoil in the industry that has happened even since then has been pretty impactful in changing the landscape of creatives. And I
Hmm.
think creatives have realized that they're they don't need to go into an office. Many of them have decided to do digital nomad lifestyles, but the need for their skill set still exists. And so, providing a way for these workflows to start to move to the cloud in a simple way was really a very important mission for us at CREE8. Now, you can certainly go to many of our partners. We're great partners with AWS and with
Hmm.
GCP, for example. Our platform runs in a multi-cloud fashion, so those are our very close partners. So I'm not going to say what I'm going to say next to denigrate any of them, but we have so many of these teams, right? So you have people that were VFX artists, or they're editors or production managers, etc., that have left their large studio jobs, and they're bringing up boutique companies all over the place, right? All over the world,
That's
and
right.
these still are working with Netflix and Amazon and Disney and all of the big studios to produce that content. So when you think about that diversity of the environment, many of them realize that they need to move to the cloud. And
Hmm.
there are solutions that talk about edit in the cloud or put your studio in the cloud, and we could certainly say that we're that in that category of post production in the cloud. But I think we think about things a little bit differently at CREE8, and that is really about how do we break down the barriers for technology? Because again, you know, we leverage AWS's and GCP's resources heavily in delivering our platform, for example. And you certainly could go to AWS and do this yourself. Where I've actually posted a blog. I encourage you to go to the website and take a look at that. It lays out step by step if you wanted to do edit in the cloud yourself.
Hmm.
There's a guide there, and it links to all of the resources that you can get from Amazon to do that. The challenge for a lot of teams is they just don't have the bandwidth to manage something of that scale or that complexity.
Wow.
The guide is 242 pages. There's 6+ hours of video, and you'll have a very, very robust enterprise level solution for your team. But it's just unreachable for a lot of the smaller teams, whether you're a 10-person editorial team, or you're a 25-person VFX team, or you're an advertising agency, or maybe you're an agency inside of a Fortune 100 company where you're doing their social media or their Super Bowl campaigns, or what have you. So these teams, they just want to get their jobs done. They just want to
Hmm.
create. They want to get their content into their creators, and they want to get it out to where it's going to go. And many of them are remote. Talent is really borderless these days. So we kind of think of ourselves as kind of the F1 garage, right? So you pull up to the pit with your production, and we come out and we just get those wheels on that car, and you're off to the races. So literally being able to sign up, add your team, create your project, get them virtual workstations that are already pre-built for their particular workflows, and then getting them logged in where they can start to customize those, enter their licenses, but they're connected straight away to the project storage in a secure way that you manage. And then you're kind of off and running. So, we're very interested to continue to add on partners in that ecosystem, because we're not trying to replace workflows. We're trying to
Right.
provide options for people to actually connect to their teams and get the resources they need without having to just learn a new workflow, learn new tools. We think that's very important because these teams are highly skilled. And the reason why they're good at what they do is they've kind of got their job down. So our job is to support them in getting their job done without all the technical overhead.
Fascinating. Gosh, I have so many questions for you, actually, Lisa. Just hearing that, so super inspiring. Just to hear you talk about create almost being the layer between, on one side, you've got a host of these boutiques and really talented folks on one side. On the other side, you've got this whole ecosystem of, I'm guessing, softwares and applications,
Yes.
and you are that layer in between. Is that the right framework
Yeah,
to
I mean, I
think?
think that is definitely one way to think about it, right? And to be able to bring teams together and online quickly and provide them with all the basics of their workflow. We do have, things like review and approve, and
Okay.
give feedback, but we support every workflow tool
Hmm.
out there. So for example, if you are a Frame.io user, it's quite easy when you're on, in your cloud storage on your virtual machine, you need to deliver content over to that particular workflow because you're already on the internet backbone. You're doing that at really the speed of the internet, right? Instead of
Yes. Yes.
downloading it to your local machine and moving it around. So there are cloud storage capabilities that many people use, but do they scale? What are they limited? Do you have to move things around unnecessarily? So we think about all of these things in that way. How can we
Hmm.
remove friction from the process? How do we make it so you just don't have to think about it? You can just do what you need to do and make that simple and easy. So that's kind of our core mission. So if you've got a friction point out there, you're like, hey, this is super super annoying, right? So we have one client, the National Hot Rod Association, that delivers about 6 terabytes of content off the truck every weekend that they're at
Whoa.
races. So, we've been working with them. They've been with us for quite some time, and we're out there at the race this last weekend here in Sonoma, looking at their workflow again. How can we improve? What makes a difference for them? And we bring each one of those innovations to everybody in the marketplace. There's other people doing live events, for example, that need
Right.
simple things like growing files. Maybe they need to sync their local NAS to their to a project storage so that their local, so their global creatives can do that versus trying to send a hard drive around or having to keep the truck on, for 5 extra hours while you're waiting for that upload to finish. So these are the things that we think about on a constant basis. And big companies that have lots of internet or big IT teams probably have been doing this for years, but it's been out of reach for many teams. There are certainly point solutions that we'd love to integrate with in this space and make those available. But our job is to make that integration happen in a way that works with all of the other parts of the workflow and the tools that people use.
Fascinating. And that I think explains, before we started this podcast, we were talking a little bit about the democratization of access for
Yes.
enterprise grade resources. I thought that was pretty inspiring, just as a framework. That I'm guessing that is exactly where this lands in a way.
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for calling that out, right? Because we do talk about that a lot, right?
Right.
So you have everybody from freelancers to these small studios, all the way even to big companies, as we said, right? That
Right.
are the creative teams inside, say, a financial services company. It's one of those things where they're playing tennis and everybody else is playing golf. It's difficult for people to translate the creative process into kind of regular workflows. And so even
Right.
they get siloed and isolated inside of large companies. So what we try to do is just say, okay, let us talk to your IT person if that's something that's appropriate, or let us bring you online. Either you're a freelancer. We have quite a few students that are they're
Hmm.
in school right now trying to learn these tools, trying to get ahead of the game,
Wow.
because they see that getting into the workflow, a lot of those entry level jobs are being impacted. And so they need to come out of school a lot more skilled than they used to because there's not
Hmm.
as many internships. Many of those basic jobs are being taken over by automation or AI and those sorts of things. We'll talk about that, I think, a little bit later. So they're in Unreal. Unreal is a big, uh,
That's right.
you know, growing skill set that is needed in the industry, and they
That's right.
can't run that locally on their computer. So what we do is they have whatever computer they have, they can come to Create, and they can quickly and easily in just under 5 minutes get a virtual machine up and running, already pre-installed with Unreal. Put your license in, and you're just off and running. Or if you
Wow.
want to use Blender, or if you want to use Resolve, or whatever it is that you need to use, we've got a build for that.
Hmm.
And we're there to help get them online and get them unblocked, because these students are like, I can't work on my project. It's not rendering. I can't share it with my friend. It's too big. So these are just micro problems. And so when you think about those micro problems and you start to scale those up to bigger and bigger and bigger teams, it can be an overwhelming thing for a team to have to deal with. And so we had a 10-person editorial team in New York that came over, and they were literally cutting by, they came onto the platform around noon, and they were cutting with 10 people by 4 o'clock, with
Whoa.
everybody had their machines up and running with their tools, and they were off and running. So this is our mission, right? We'd like to even do it even faster if
Right,
we
right, right,
possibly
right.
can, but that is really, it's again, it's about the technology serving the need of the creative, not the technology being so complicated that it gets in the way of the process.
Right, right. Fascinating. And so the one related question, Lisa, was just in terms of, I mean, post production itself is pretty wide,
Yes.
with a variety of tooling and variety of sort of steps along the way, variety of sort of specialists who typically work inside post. Um, how far along is Create now in terms of the overall reach to different specialists within post? Do you serve all or some? Uh, is there a set of folks that you're doing more with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think that we don't necessarily make a distinction, or we don't necessarily say, oh, we're a specialist in sort of supporting a certain area. What we are a
I see.
specialist in is thinking about a production or a project and getting the content and the people connected to that content that need to do the work. And
Hmm.
that doesn't matter who they are. If you're a production manager and you don't need a creative tool suite, there's a machine for you for that. You can be on there. You can be tracking what's happening you can be with the project. You can be moving content around seamlessly because you're on the internet without downloading or uploading. You can be managing people. You can be managing their access, granting access, taking access away. These things are very important to be able to do
Right.
in the course of a production.
Hmm.
Say you're using, Flow from Autodesk as far as your workflow. We work fine. You can put that on our platform, run that in your space, and manage your project that way through every single, if through every single step. I would say that the one part of the pipeline that is always very challenging is color. And so do color
Hmm.
on a remote workstation. We are working with some partners. One company is called Films that we're in, and I'm sure Daniel won't mind me mentioning that we're talking to them before we get before we figure out what we're going to go do together. But this is one of those things where we do want to take on those hard problems. Color is probably the very hardest of all of the processes to
Right.
deal with. So we're not going to say we can do something that we cannot, right? But where our goal is to be able to support the production process and work with those partners that are best in class, where our solution can connect to their solution and make that easier for everyone in the pipeline. That's really our goal. Our goal isn't to go in and make custom tools for this, that, or the other thing. Our goal is to support best in class and the tools, the tooling, and the processes that are needed. So whether you're a VFX artist, you are an editor, you're a 3D animator, you're a game designer, you're an
Mhm.
architect, maybe you're an interior designer, maybe you're just a graphic designer. I don't want to say
Right.
just, because graphic designers have a very complex role, but maybe you don't need a high GPU machine to do something on Photoshop, for example. But if you're a VFX artist, you need to be able to have access to the best you can get to get those renders done and out the door.
Hmm.
So it depends on. It's really about the project. So we're very project focused, and then what
Oh,
we call creator centric. So what does the project need, and what do the creatives that are working on that project need to make that project easier? How can we stop shipping hard drives in taxis, right? How do we stop shipping computers around because we just don't know if the creative on the other end has a good enough machine? These are things that we just really want to eliminate because they're just not necessary in the process.
fascinating. And then this is very, very inspiring. One related question was then, the addition of new suites or new sort of applications. What inspires a new application getting added? Is it because a user came in and said, "Hey, I need this particular tool to be able to use for the job that I'm trying to do, or is it does your team proactively go out and scout some of these tools and applications and bring those onto your platform?
I think it's both, right?
Okay.
In the case of, we had again a conversation with NHRA today about their local NAS and wanting that to just automatically sync for their melts into the cloud. Luckily for us, we had already had several conversations and had a solution in place for several other clients there. So when he's like, I have an idea, we were like, whew, we already, we got you on that one. But it's just as likely that someone will come and say, hey, can you do blah, 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 whatever that happens to be. And, we'll have to be candid about whether we think we can or cannot, or what the process will be to do that. But
Right.
in general, we find that most technologies can be connected together in very standard ways.
Hmm.
And what we're very interested to do is getting our relationships with the Adobes of the world, Autodesk, Blackmagic. We run all Foundry, right? You guys all know who you are out there in the world, right? And so as we as we come onto the market, establishing those partnerships so that we can make sure that what we're providing makes all of those solutions shine and work at their best potential for the people that need them. That's really our goal. And we have a very simple philosophy. We have a SaaS business model. We try to provide predefined tiers of hours and storage that can be shared across a team, so that a production has a predictable bill each month. Some
Okay.
months, they may go, and on our back end system, maybe they've got a lot of egress going out. I don't charge that egress to them,
Got it.
right? So what we try to do is you commit to us to pay, to a standard commitment every month, and we take care of all the bumps in the process, right? So you don't have to worry about getting a surprise bill for something. So
Hmm.
it's very predictable and very manageable. If you go over, we should talk about that. We can get you to a new tier,
Hmm.
or you can be like, hey, I'm good. I'm willing to, pay the overage for the month because it's just going to be a one-time thing. Whatever it needs to be, we're here to be flexible and make that work. And
Got it.
I think that really, hopefully, differentiates us in the marketplace. And we want to continue to bring the best and the brightest of tools to creatives, with the goal of
Hmm.
helping them be more creative. And we get pushed a lot on for investors like, well, what's your AI play, right?
Right.
This is a very simple, and I'm going to just transition to that. You and I talked about that a little bit,
That's
right?
right. That's
So, there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, when it comes to the creative process, when it comes to AI. And our philosophy here is, again, the platform is not here to try to design new things, but the platform here is, to really enable the creatives through whatever
right.
process that we can. So where AI plays a role in enhancing that workflow, we've just rolled out a co-pilot. That co-pilot has a lot of information about our
Ah,
platform, but it has over almost, I think we're up to 18,000 individual solution articles from the likes of Adobe, and that are
wow.
published, right? So we're using published content to try to aggregate it together in one place, so that if somebody is working on a tool on our platform, they can get a quick answer. And if they get stuck and they can't, like, why isn't my sound playing, or why when I hit the space bar in Premiere is my timeline not moving? So these are all things that are very specific to the software, but we find that it's our responsibility to get that creator unstuck. So
Wow.
obviously, letting them engage with an assistant that can help them get through that process. And if it's still unstuck, they just chat with us and we'll get on the line to get them unstuck. So this is really how we think about these things. And then under the covers, really working on using AI in the orchestration of all of the technology underneath. How can we make that more efficient? Um, how can we make sure we're placing compute resources in the best place for the best price and the best performance? Because we want to pass all those savings back to our users, right? Because we have
Right.
that commitment for a certain amount, a certain level of performance and a certain level of cost that they can rely on, that is approachable and it's not scary, right? So
Right.
that's where I think, you'll see us integrating with, leading AI tools, in as much as our creators want to be able to have access to those tools to do their jobs.
Fascinating. So it's a SaaS platform to the user,
Correct.
and you have essentially hourly plans, monthly plans. I'm guessing there are
Yeah,
different.
so we have tiers. So again, each tiers has a certain number of hours and a certain
Okay.
number amount of storage, and that those tiers certainly can be upgraded through the checkout process. Say you want to have access to higher end compute or faster storage, but we keep it really really simple. We have caps on users per tiers, not because we really care how many users are in your account, right? You need however many you need. And people
Right.
like reviewers and approvers are free, that you can have as many of those as you want. But we just cap those because if you have a lower plan, say you have 175 hours a month of hours, and you decide to put 15 users in there, I mean, you're out of hours in a couple of days, right? So
Right.
we
Right.
just their guidelines to say, listen, we think this is about this for this size of team, but we can
Okay.
we can configure those with for any size team. In fact,
Nice.
we can, for clients that require this to be in their own private cloud, for example, we can deploy it for them there.
Right.
We Most clients we find are moving on to our cloud because they like the simplicity of the management and the predictability of the bills. When you go into your own cloud, you have to deal with those cloud bills. If you come onto our cloud, we deal with all those for you. So as we look forward, right, we're looking to integrate more, automation, more partnerships with more providers globally, because we
Mhm.
want to place the content and that compute where the users need it for the best performance, right? So that's really
Right.
important to us to again, this is about having us deal with the complexity of where things should go and where they should be, versus having people on the creatives on the team worry about that.
Fascinating. So that's super interesting. Just the simplicity on the user side. It's just as a the simplicity of SaaS. Um,
Yes.
on the folks who are on the application side, or even some of the cloud providers, do they have to make any changes to conform to your platform, or do you make those integrations on your end? How does that work?
Yeah, and we are taking care of those on our end. Where we
Okay.
think there's a better together with a provider, we may go in and work with them and say, hey, if we could just do this, if you could do this on your end and we'll do that on our end, then we would have a better user experience,
Ah,
for example, right?
okay.
But, those things, we cross those bridges when we come to it. We try to take advantage of what we call native capabilities. So one cloud provider might do something really well on one side, and another, and maybe somebody does something else better on the other side. So we try to take advantage. So we have the opportunity to mix and match and bring
Okay.
those cloud. We leverage cloud native services. Um, there is a tendency, I think, in the industry to say, if you're going to be cloud agnostic, you have to just do only the capabilities that work everywhere, right? Once, run many, as they like to say in
Right.
software. And that is the easier way to do things. But we feel that by doing that, we don't expose amazing innovations. Google just mentioned, announced, I think yesterday, some of their AI for dealing with interaction of what's on your storage, right? So taking advantage of that and bringing some of those features to our clients that might value that would be something that we would do. Where Amazon is great at moving around media, so why would we not use their services to move around media, and then supplement that with our intelligence about how that stuff all needs to work together. And yes, there is definitely times when I'm calling them up and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do, if you could just help me with this. But that's
Right.
where this, as an industry, that's where we can collaborate and really, I talk about, putting more water in the bathtub. Like, our job is to fill the water up in the bathtub so all the bath toys can have fun, right? And so if there's an issue, if the drain is open and we got some of that is causing a
Right.
drag on the the toys are like, so it's our job
Right.
as technologists to really work together to plug those gaps, and again, get all those boats floating and doing what they do best.
Fascinating. And When some of these companies are looking at you, do they look at you as a walled garden, as a ecosystem, as a marketplace, or as a uh, as a platform?
I think they, I don't know. I would love for your listeners to really tell us what they think
Okay,
about that, right? We want to be seen as a platform and an ecosystem, right? So,
understood.
so we do have marketplace elements that we have now. There's you can install an app. While we're not in the commerce side of those apps right now, we would love to be. So we are talking to a few partners about how we can co-sell or they could resell through our platform or vice versa.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that we don't want to be seen as a walled garden. We want to be seen as an open platform with one caveat.
Hmm.
And we know how important security is in the media business. And we
Yes,
take that
yes,
very, very seriously. And
right.
so, in as much as people need to, hey, why I'm working with a freelancer and they cannot, I need to make sure they can't download that content to their local machine. Well, we got you, right? You're on your virtual machine. We can manage that control. You can take it away immediately, and you don't have to worry about getting the content back from them because they're working on it in the place where it is going to be, right?
Mhm.
You need to deliver it securely. I have to deliver it to whoever, and I have to use this particular gateway or this particular tool. We want to make sure that we're supporting that for those teams so they can securely do their work in a way that their partner requires them to do it. So that's the most important thing to us, to be that glue
Mhm.
between it all, but make it easy.
Fascinating, fascinating. And a couple of other interesting questions, just in terms of how you see, the overall sort of situation develop for Create in the coming months. Um, is it largely for freelancers, or do you see more and more mid-sized companies also sort of saying, "Oh, this is a much better way for us to actually operate"?
Yeah.
um, Boutique. So I'm just creating the distinction between just freelancers to boutiques to mid-sized companies who can essentially sort of have a much more flexible plug and play with a solution like yours.
It was interesting when we first launched, we thought that, you know, really our big first entrance into the marketplace would be attracting a lot of freelancers. And so that's why we have a very attractive, first tier that's just called freelance. Uh, However, that's not what's happened. What's
Hmm.
happened is that we have much more of the mid-size and even enterprises that are looking to come on board. And
Whoa.
yeah, it's been a surprise to me as well. It's gratifying, but it's also a surprise. And I think they are looking at it from the inside out. They work with a lot of freelancers. And so
Right.
for them to be able to bring them onto the platform, for us, it will be, I think, a network effect from there, meaning a freelancer's on a project and now they're on the platform. They can easily work on another project on their platform, or they may be like, this was pretty great. I have a small project I need to work on. They'll go ahead and just do a small subscription for themselves to do their personal stuff. But the thing is if you're a freelancer on the platform, you could have 5 or 6 clients. When you log into the application, it says, where do you want to work today? Which client are you going to work on today? And it allows you to quickly and easily switch between those clients. And then those clients feel very secure because once you're into their space, you're secured to there. There's no way for you to take things from one place to another. So there's a really nice two-sided network effect that we see
Hmm.
coming on board here. And so I think it's tempting for people to try to want to pigeonhole you into like, oh, well, who's your market, or what creators do you support, or what industry, right? And we can talk about that for that industry in that context, absolutely. But I think it's a very interesting thing to think about. How do we bridge that gap between the borderless talent that is out there and
Right.
getting them connected easily to the work that needs to be done, and vice versa?
This is such an interesting point actually that you bring up, Lisa, because we currently, so Vitrina is currently running a few mandates, including for Netflix, where we are actually sort of searching for specialists around the world
Yep.
in a set of target markets. Um, it just so happens that some of that talent is not housed in large enterprises that usually some of these companies like working with.
Yep.
So, do you envisage a situation where a streamer comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to bring on board these ragtag bunch of freelancers, and these are our specs on security. These are the specs in terms of tooling, and set them up on your system." Is that a possibility, or are you already seeing those requests come in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's in those scenarios which are usually really difficult are super easy on our platform.
Aha.
So you basically we set you up, you say who's on the team, you invite them, you create the projects that they're going to be involved with, and then you give them the compute power that they need to get the job done. You're not guessing what they have on the other end. You're not, again, trying to send them a hard drive with the content on it. It's all there. It's all right when they log in. They have access to everything that they need, and including the compute power that they need in the environment that you decide that they need to have for that job. And so that's very repeatable. It's repeatable for large enterprise teams all the way down to the ragtags, as you say, the teams that are just, trying to get
A
their
project done.
stuff done. And interestingly enough, we've got some very simple tools where, hey, you have a streamer out, on his phone, or on a drone, or on a handheld of some sort, out filming surfing, and you want to get
Hmm.
that on your channel. We have a very simple way, just through a web link. You can even send them if you'd like, and they can just, when they're done, they just, even on their phone, they can click on that link and just upload that, and it goes into, it's kind of like a dailies folder, right, or whatever
Whoa.
folder you might, it's you're totally in your control. And that way, that that guy's still standing on the beach, uploaded his content, right, and whoever's editing that together to turn it around and stream it back out to wherever it needs to go, off, they're off and running, right, without any delays. So there's so many different combinations of workflows that are possible now with the
Hmm.
cloud, and then with our thinking about how to simplify that from end to end. That's why it's important for us to be able to integrate and understand a lot of the other technologies that are out there, because there's so many people that do these specialty things very, very well, but they don't connect into the rest of the workflow. And we can work with those partners to actually connect them in. If we just think about getting content to the storage so that a creator can do what they can do, if we all just think about that as a process,
Right.
that I think is the thing that it has to drive us forward. How do we get the people that know what to do with it, that are the talent around bringing this content to market, what they need, when they need it, and
Hmm.
help them deliver their great work out to the world.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So let me ask you one other key question. Again, follow up to my earlier one, which is that if this set of freelancers happen to be across different countries and different markets, do you have to sort of is your system currently capable of handling different sort of locations, or do they have to be in the
Mhm.
US? Does it require any more optimization? How do you reference that?
Well, we're scaling throughout the world based on where the demand is, right?
Okay.
But we can bring up a new region very, very quickly.
Okay.
So say we need to bring up a data center in Mexico City, right? And under a day, we can have that available. In fact,
Nice.
we're looking for 20 minutes, right? Those are goals where we need to, to go. I mean, I think there are some providers out there that will say, we can get you up and running at the studio in the cloud in 20 minutes. Those conditions are, that's probably your own private, your private cloud region, and there was probably a lot of work that was done to get that region ready for you before that 20 minutes happened. But for us, it's the whole end-to-end process. We want it to be very, very quick, and we do that for ourselves. But we're trying to stay out in front of those requests. And it's interesting because we find, like, we have a team in Santiago, Chile. um, they found it was just as quick for them to connect to the US as it was to try to connect to their local, to their local data
Ah,
center. So we make those decisions as we go, and as
okay.
we train our AI engine around the orchestration to get that information, we are going out in advance, getting that analytics, that pricing, and that reporting, so that as that intelligent automation comes online, those things will happen at a click. We have, you can bring yourself online at a click of a button. Now the infrastructure will operate at a click of a button as well. So that's really our strategy. And I think we'll be very far. We are very far down the line on that. But as far as, the global scale, as we scale out over the next 12 to 18 months, people will start to really see how powerful that capability is.
Understood. Fascinating. And then the one other related question was also relating to just post, which is changing very dramatically, right? With gaming engines, you've got all
Yep.
kinds of cloud solutions coming up. Are there adjacencies that you already serve, animation, or other plans to sort
Yeah,
of
I mean, when it comes to the tools that are needed for each one of those roles, we aim to be a leader in providing the infrastructure and the tools that they need. And one thing that we have had a lot of requests for is, does it come with the license? Does it come with the software already licensed, or do I have to pay more for that? That really requires us to work with our partners on what that might look like, to again further reduce the friction. But we do see a lot of animation happening on the platform. That animation isn't just for media and entertainment, right? That animation is for
TV,
manufacturing and
right?
design. There is a ton of work that's happening in, I think I mentioned before, about architecture. Architectural pre-visualization is very intensive and heavy. And in fact, we have quite a bit of machine learning happening on the platform. So you have teams at universities that are working on crunching a lot of data, and they need to share that data with each other quickly, and they may not be in the same place.
Wow.
So, when you think of creatives and the people that are working, you need to be able to work in this very seamless way. That the definition of that can be quite broad.
That's
So
right.
we don't want to scare people with saying we're trying to be everything to everyone. I don't think that that's really
Right.
the case, but there is a set of work, and there is a set of people that need to collaborate to create something, and they need to work together for that. Or even an individual who has their own constraints. They've got one computer, but what if they could just have four at the touch of a button? How much better could they do? So these are the problems that we think about trying to solve on a daily basis, and making sure that our underlying infrastructure continues to evolve and continues to be able to scale to solve those difficult problems. But again, we're not doing it alone. We're doing it with an amazing set of technical partners. And we, again, you asked me to ask for what I want. That's what I want. I want those. I don't want people to think of us as our competition. I want them to think about us as a platform that can really help them extend. And that's what we want to be known for as far as the ecosystem is concerned.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, and again, great to have you sort of put that word out there.
Thank you for the
Again, that
opportunity to do that.
absolutely, absolutely. Last question, Lisa, was really relating to the future roadmap. How's the year progressing so far? What are the next set of plans that you can reveal?
Yeah, so I think the main thing for us is to listen to our users, seeing what they need, seeing where their hotspots are, where the friction points are, and getting their feedback. We've had a number of people come to the platform and be very happy, and put their credit card in and off they're going. We've had people that have come in and said, you know. Uh, took my particular use case is too specialized. I just don't think it's for me right now. But we celebrate those losses just as much as we celebrate the wins, because then we learn. If we don't have the information, we cannot grow. We cannot bring new features to the platform. So that is the most important thing for us, is to think about getting that user feedback and looking where we continuously improve. The second area, again, as I mentioned, is really strengthening our partnerships and those
Mhm.
integrations, and working direct side by side with the best and the best in the industry to make sure that we work well with their platforms. And then the third thing is to again make sure that we're continuing to optimize the platform. We have to be able to run our platform at a very streamlined operational cost. Why is that? Because our mission is also to make these capabilities available in an affordable way. And if our costs are kind of not being managed, and we're not thinking about this in a lean fashion, making that as that underlying operations as efficiently as possible, we won't have savings to pass on to the users. And so unless we keep doing that,
Mm.
and making sure that we're continuing to optimize our technology under the hood, we won't be able to really deliver on our mission. And I think the last thing that's really difficult for the industry is storage, right? Where are my assets? How do I make sure that they're protected? How do I move them between classes of storage? How do I know, maybe I've got my MAM of choice, maybe I'm using Iconic, or maybe I'm using something else to manage my content.
Right.
How do we support and integrate a unified project view across all types of storage, whether that storage is under our management, it's under your desk on your local NAS, it's over in a MAM somewhere. It's really about the project and having that unified view of the project, no matter where your content sits, and then being able to have the intelligence that helps you manage that content to put it. Hey, you're ready to put it over onto Glacier storage. We got you. You can put in rules that work for you. You can ask our intelligent, AI to do that for you, or you can, do it manually.
Mm.
Whatever we want to. It's about choice, but not choice in that we're going to give you a whole bunch of buttons and you got to, like, what combination of things do I need to click to make it work? But choice in that you're in control, right? We want you to make sure that you're in control, but we still keep that project and what you need to do on the work front and
Mm.
center. And then we're focused on the creatives that need to do the work and make sure that they can do the work that they need to do. That is at our core. So everything that we're going to be releasing, from unified projects to real-time chat, um, is all meant to keep them creating, keep them
Right.
where they need to be without friction, and be able to deliver those projects as soon as possible.
Fascinating, fascinating, super inspiring. Lisa, can't thank you enough from all of our users and members for sharing your thoughts. This is super inspiring. So hopefully you'll actually get a host of freelancers as well as some of the mid-sized and enterprise
For
customers coming
sure.
in.
And actually, for anybody that's watching this podcast, if you just go to our website and book a demo and just tell Eli that you saw this podcast on Vitrina, if you like what you see, he'll hook you up with a 14-day free trial. And whether
Fantastic.
you come onto the platform or whether you don't, we want to hear what you have to think, because we are in the business of learning what it's going to make a difference for creators. So thank you very much for the opportunity, Atul, for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure as well, and thank you for the generous offer to all of our users. Wishing you all the very best for the rest of the year. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much. I appreciate it.